Finding a build that matches your playstyle feels like heaven. You're securing kills easily, the enemy isn't able to kill you, wins are just flowing through. But using a build and making one of your own are just completely different beasts. It's a labor of love improving it, but that means it's also going to improve alongside you in the way that you improve with a character. My name is Burger Kyle and I have over 1,200 games on Kelvin. I used to be a one trick. That was until I reached Eternus, top 300 in my region, and then I decided to learn a second character to be a two trick. So now I have 200 to 300 games on Venator. So my specialty is definitely playing a character to the absolute limits and figuring out what can you do with their different abilities and how can you build with them. So when you're creating a build of your own, there's 3 things that you want to start with. Which of your abilities do you want to focus on? What are your character's weakness? And what sacrifices can you make in order to make your build faster, or to avoid a part of the map, or to avoid a part of the game where you're not doing too well? Now, I just created a brand new build for Kelvin, so we're going to go over it together so that we can address these 3 different points. Now, what ability do we want to focus on? All the characters nowadays, I'm just going to give a giant blanket statement, and I'm going to say that each of their abilities, 2 or 3 of them at least, are viable to completely build for. Now for Kelvin, I've noticed at the end of the game stat screen, I see that I'm doing almost all my damage with Frost Grenade. It's like 20% of my damage every single game. So why not focus on it super hard? That's exactly what I did with this build, and I said, let's just take it to the extreme. We're going to rush a 3200 item at the beginning of the lane phase because I believe so much in the Frost Grenade. So that's exactly what I did. Rush Rapid Recharge. We could rush a different item for the nade. You could rush the cooldown on the nade. You could rush Mystic Burst, which would help the nade do more damage. But I really want to focus on having tons of nades, and that's exactly what Rapid Recharge does. Now, usually in the build with a Kelvin, you could additionally get heal right. That would be something that would give you sustain in the beginning of the game. You could go opening rounds, and that's also an item that could benefit your nade. Those are just different play styles that you could focus on, and you very well may choose to do those things, and that's great for your build and your play style. But for me, I just want to do it all the way to the max. I want rapid recharge as fast as possible, and I want to see, when I have an investment of 3,200, what is that going to get me for my ability points? How many ability points am I going to have? Because I know that I want level 2 of nade once I have rapid recharge, because having the extra cooldown and the stamina, freezing stamina regen, those things are going to work well together. So at 3,200, this is where we're going to be checking the Deadlock wiki, and I do this so frequently when I'm making a build. I want to see at this investment threshold, how many ability points do I have? So here on the wiki page, we could find the 3,200 threshold mark. We could see that I have ability points. So yes, I'm going to be able to reach that mark where I need the 3 ability points for my nade. And then I'm also going to have 1 left over. So that means that I can get my nade and I can have a point in Ice Path to get me to that threshold maybe a little bit more safely or a little bit more dangerously. Maybe you want to be peaking at 3,200 in the early lane phase, playing to trade for kills. That could be part of your build. But for me, it's how do I safely get to this point with nade? So that's something that I'm checking very often. Another time that I would be checking that is when I get level 3 of my nade. That's when it becomes super powerful, maybe. So at this point in my build, I see that I want to get the rest of my abilities. I'm going to have 12 points. We have 3, 6, 7 plus the 5. So I'm going to need 12 ability points by the time that I get my nade. So I want to see, when I have 12 ability points, how many souls is that? You know, how does that match my build? And am I really making use of all the souls that I'm going to be having by the time that I get by the time that I max out my ability? So again, that's something that we can look at when we go to the wiki and we say, okay, 12 ability points. So instead of going by the soul threshold, we're going by the ability points. So working from those 12 ability points, we see 9,800 souls, and then we go back to our build and we see, all right, at 9,800 souls, I'm going to be close to my warp stone. I'm going to reach level 3 of my nade just before I get warp stone. So for me, I'm quite happy when those two things come together, because I'm one, getting the power spike of a super powerful nade, and then I'm also covering the weakness of my Kelvin playstyle, which is, you know, sometimes being a little too close to the enemy or getting caught by some sort of crowd control. Now, covering the weaknesses is something that I would overdo. Right? So for Kelvins, you often see enduring speed in the build, you often see fleet foot in the build, and I would buy these items. I love these items because it's so fun to play with them on Ice Path, and I would buy them before Warp Stone. Now, we can see here in the build, okay, well, that actually puts us 3,200 souls behind it. So can I sacrifice some items in my build, you know, specifically fleet foot and enduring speed? Or before, it would be like opening rounds really early in this build. Could I sacrifice something in this build so that the rest of my build would come quicker? And so I tried that for one game. I said, you know what, if I don't have that extra move speed, am I going to die? And I found that I didn't actually need that move speed. I could get to the item which actually saved me many more times than those other items that I thought maybe was saving me. And I could get to it a lot quicker. So if I was dying a ton before the 15-minute mark, if I could get Warp Stone at like the 10-minute mark, that means I wouldn't be dying after 10 minutes. So again, that's the third point in when we're making a build. What sacrifices can I make to reach power spikes quicker? Or what sacrifices can I make to jump over parts of the game where I might be weak? Now for a character like Venator, a character that likes to farm a lot, you're going to have a completely different objective for the first 15 minutes of the game. I'm not thinking about, you know, can I build this super powerful shotgun so I could just be pressing the attack for the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game. With Venator, I'm thinking, you know what, how can I farm as many souls as possible within the first 20 to 25 minutes? And so there's a completely different objective, but I'm still going to be going through that list of like, okay, I can farm. That is an ability that I have to farm extremely efficiently. So I'm going to be focusing on that. The second part is the weaknesses. You know, if I'm going to be getting ganked by people, because people love ganking Venator, another immobile hero, what item can I buy that'll kind of defer that? And so I'll choose an item, something like Restorative Locket, and I'll find that, you know what, that was enough to get me through a gank. And then again, we'll work our way to the third point and say like, okay, well, I actually bought Restorative Locket and I bought Reactive Barrier in a lot of these games, but let's see if we can make the sacrifice and not pick up Reactive Barrier, or instead not pick up Restorative Locket and find ourselves 1,600 souls earlier into maybe buying another farming item. So focus on these 3 points, and your build is going to come together over time, especially as you gain more experience. You might not be picking the exact same skills as I do, but as long as you follow those 3 points and, you know, focus on what you're good at, try and cover what your weakness is, and then make some sacrifices to make it a little bit more lean. You know, with these 3 points, you're going to be creating a good build that improves alongside you. That's all I got for now. Subscribe for more.